declare this meeting of the Conshohocken Borough Council duly open and ready to conduct any business that may come before it. Council did have an executive session prior to the meeting on legal and property matters. Steph, if you could do roll call.
Councilmember Totino.
Present.
Councilmember Serna.
Here.
Councilmember Kingsley.
Present.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Elam.
Present.
Vice President Sokolowski.
Here.
President Leonard.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you. We could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this evening, the first item, I'm going to ask if anyone has public comment for the agenda items only. Or if you could state for the record there was no public comment. The first item on the agenda is under land use matters, public hearings and ordinances. The first item is consider granting conditional use of approval for 918 Fayette Street. I'll hand that over to Mike Peters.
Thank you, President Leonard. This is the scheduled date and time for a vote on the application for 918 Fayette Street. Applicants Pop of Posh LLC and Vintage Affair Rentals LLC. Tax parcel number 05-00-03008-00-2. The applicants seek a conditional use pursuant to 27-1203 of the Borough zoning ordinance to permit an artistic/creative flex space on the first floor of the property. Borough Council held a hearing on October 5th, and it was continued to this evening for a vote. If Borough Council is inclined to grant the conditional use, there are conditions that are recommended by Borough Administration. The first is that the use of the property be in substantial conformance with the application and the exhibits and testimony presented at the hearing. The second, as presented at the hearing, the existing building shall be preserved, utilized, and maintained in a manner that is consistent with the existing Victorian early 20th century character of this section of Fayette Street, as required by zoning ordinance section 27-1204.2. Number 3, as presented at the hearing, the existing front yard shall be maintained as landscaped open space of the type traditionally found in the upper Fayette Street area, with shade trees, foundation plantings, grass, etc., as required by zoning ordinance section 27-1204.4. Number 4, in addition to the requirements identified in conditions number 2 and 3, use of the property shall otherwise comply with all other requirements of the zoning ordinance section 27-1204. And number 5, use of the property shall comply with all federal, state, and local laws and regulations. With those conditions, this matter is prepared and ready for your vote this evening.
So if council is so inclined, the motion is to grant conditional use approval for 918 Fayette Street to permit an artistic creative flex space in the RO residential office district on the first floor of the existing building.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And with that, we thank our
Good
co-chair.
luck.
Good luck.
And I'll send the notice of decision.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming to Borough. All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is under presentations. It is the trash alternative trial period research with our public service representatives. So if Mr. Sokolowski and Mr. Perry would like to come up. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thanks, Brittany. So we're here to talk about the alternative trash pickup. We went to once-a-day trash pickup back in August. And we're just going to go over some of the results that we've had because of it, some of the things we've learned because of it, and some of the recommendations we have for the future. So those are some basic numbers. I showed you some numbers when we started this program, what trash pickup was each day during the week, and those numbers are going to be similar. The only things that we've noticed, I think, in some cases, is that we have had a little more on the recycling side. It is unusual that when we started this program that we had requests for more trash cans, but we had requests for more recycling cans too. So I don't know whether people misheard what we were saying, that recycling was going to change as well as trash, but that recycling is still once a week. So some people have 2 trash cans. I think we gave away 200 or so trash cans. So as far as that, the tonnage and the recycling is going to stay about the same. The tonnage in Monday, Tuesday pickups obviously is going to be much more. What we have seen, again, is a little more recycling, and that might be simply because people are being a little bit more careful with what they have to throw away because they don't have the space in their trash can, which they usually would throw recycling in. Now they actually are doing some more recycling. You have anything to add to that? No. The next one. So I know one of the big conversations was fuel, and that is going to be an ongoing scenario during the winter. So those are our fuel consumptions in public works only. The difference is about in cost. It's about $1,000 averages out to about $1,000 a month. It doesn't sound like a lot. Over 12 months, that's $12,000, and that's based on current costs. If anybody's gotten a recent bill for their oil, you will understand that those costs are going to be much higher come the rest of the winter. Right now, we're looking at about a 33% increase in fuel costs. So you can go to the next one. So the as of September, the cost to the borough for fuel is $35,230.34. That's up into September. We haven't got October's numbers yet. Last year, the entire year, we were at $26,134. So we're going to be much more than that, maybe close to double of what we paid in fuel last year. So anything we can do to try to lower that is going to be helpful in the long run. Now, I just don't want to base everything on the fact on costs. The other part of this, obviously, is how it's affecting. You know, the next one, how it's affecting the people in the borough. We have municipalities in the borough. We have many municipalities that have gone away from 4-time pickups a week, 2-time pickups a week. That shows you how many we have left. So we're one of the 6 remaining in Montgomery County. Bucks County has 5. Delaware County, I think I've talked about that in the last presentation. Delaware County is an anomaly because of how Delaware County's tax base is. They have a lot of people in public works and 21 municipalities in Delaware County, which is, as you see, much more than anybody else. But everybody's moved away from this, and if they haven't moved away from it completely, they've moved into private hauling. And that's something that I think across the board we have not even bothered to discuss. Private hauling right now, if you want to talk about costs, private hauling is just a complete anomaly. Take a guess at what you're going to pay when you sign a contract for private hauling. That's it. So you can keep going. So with how this is affecting the people in the municipality, I know initially when this went out, we've got concerns, and we answered. I know council's had concerns that I know that they've had to answer. But one of the things that I talked about was what we were going to do, or what Public Works was going to do with the time they had not picking up trash. And this is just an example of some of the things. Some of these projects have been pushed back for years and years and years. If you're not familiar with the parking lot area on 8th Avenue, that was basically, they put horses there and just left them there. Now that is fenced in with a fence that they built, Public Services built. It's aesthetically better, and it's also much safer. The same thing with First and Harry, where the businesses park. So that was concrete Jersey barriers that were probably 20 or 25 years old. They were removed. Public Services Department went in and re-fenced that whole area with wooden fences. And now it's got paved today, and it'll be finished tomorrow. So that's a completely different look for that area. And what we were able to do once we found that is right above it, there's a high wall. That area behind it is also owned by the Borough of Conshohocken. So we had the landscaping people go in there and clear it out, and that's going to be another pocket park. We're going to turn that into a pocket park now. It overlooks Springville Avenue. It's a high point. We'll take the steps out, but you'll be able to access it through the parking lot and through Harry Street. So that's just these are just examples of what what they were able to do. Stuff that's upcoming that's really not on that list is we're just starting this leaf collection part. It doesn't sound like leaf collection is a big deal. It is a big deal. Leaves go down into the storm sewer system. They cause all sorts of issues. They end up in the Schuylkill River. So that's starting, and that's going to give them 3 days in a row to do leaf collection with more people than they've had since you've been here. Yeah. Well, Frank's been here 30 years. I should point that out. Yeah, and that should not only be, they should not only be able to do it more efficiently, but it may be one of those seasons where they have to do it more often. And now you don't have to find a time or bring people in on Saturdays to do it or off hours to do it. You'll be able to go back and do it. Or when everything else is settled down, they'll just go out and do it and hit spots. They'll also be able to hit storm sewer drains and things like that with that on just a daily basis where that couldn't happen before. That's a big thing. And then the road program, which we're trying to institute. Now, the only thing that's slowing that up a little bit is, again, is something that I'll talk about, that I've always talked about, is the cost of some of this stuff. The mastic, we have a mastic machine. It's like basically a tar machine, and you'll see that they've went and used that now around town, and they've patched up different areas. That went from like $2,200, $2,300 for a skid to like $6,900 a skid within the last couple. Everything's in the 33 to 34% increase. So we can't. It doesn't pay for us to do it right now, because in the wintertime it's only going to get. It's going to be a problematic anyway. So they'll come back to it in April, and hopefully the costs will somewhat subside. The anticipated projects. Remember the park, which is part of the approval for next year's budget at the B field. That's going to get done. Roads, all the other capital projects that we have outstanding, and we don't outsource much of our stuff anymore. And when we do outsource things, it becomes clear at how problematic that becomes because of pricing. Just a recent example, we had to have some blacktop work done. The difference in the pricing between the three companies on a $22,000 job was $6,000. And that's just based on the fact that this company was in Conshohocken at the time and was able to do the work, as opposed to somebody who would have to come in and do the work. $6,000 on a $20,000 job is big. That's a lot of money. If you take that out to $200,000, it becomes almost malfeasant to do it. You wouldn't do something that you wouldn't pay $6,000 more for something that you can probably get $6,000 less in 6 months. So they're able to do things like clear things out, take care of everything, get it ready, and have them come in. So that's just an example of how in-house stuff is helping us rather than having to go outside to have work done. And then we also have this professional development part of it is a term that you hear in other businesses. It's more of a business term, but the truth of the matter is you want to be able to have these people do other things. And if you don't have them do other things, they'll leave. And when you have good people, you don't want them to leave. So what we're able to do now is they're able to do a mastic machine. They're able to operate a piece of equipment that they normally wouldn't be able to do, because 4 days a week, if you started in Conshohocken today and you're a low person on the totem pole, you're probably doing trash for 4 days, for years before you get switched over. There are guys who I know, like Dell, who told me that for 10 years, that's basically all he did, was every once in a while concrete and trash. I think the generationally things have changed, and I think we have to move towards a more professional development, more of an organized way to try to get people to stay here, especially when we have as good of a team as we have now. We really do have a good public works crew. And then we did get feedback. That those items I think speak for themselves, but we did get feedback as early as today at lunchtime. We had about an hour-long meeting with everybody to discuss all this and get their feedback. One of the guys was supposed to be here but couldn't be here because of child. But this is what they want to do. This is the way that they would prefer to work, with having this trash and recycling out of the picture on Monday and Tuesday and be able to do projects for the rest of the year. We have snow coming up. People don't realize that there's that period of time where where you have to get prepared for snow. Going out and plowing snow and dropping salt is one thing, but getting that equipment to the point where it's ready to do that is a big project. We can train these people, some of them who have just been here for 6 months, who don't know how to who've never plowed before. We're able to train them how to put a plow on. If they're the only first people that called out, they have to be able to install a plow, to maintain. It is an engineering feat sometimes to try to make these things happen. Sometimes it works, and sometimes you have to use a hammer to make it work. Training is a very big part of it. They appreciate that. Recently, as far as with other trainings go, recently 4 guys. We sent 4 guys to a PennDOT sponsored training in West Virginia. PennDOT does things regionally now, so it'll be West Virginia, Delaware, Maryland. They'll have the training in one of those states, not only in PA. And we were able to send 4 guys for 3 days to that. And we really operated without any issues. When we have to be spread over a 4-day period, it becomes difficult. And it's not, again, I'm not just going to talk about the money with this. If I did talk about the money with this, just so everybody knows, there would be no argument here. Because financially, I think that is the way it needs to happen. But I understand that there's other tangible and intangible things, how people perceive this, and how it affects the general public that may change an opinion on some things. But I don't want to use the wrong analogy here, but there's just no reason for me to talk about the financial part of it. I think it'll speak for itself now and in the long run. So we did have feedback from people who have townhomes and row houses, but not really that much. We are going to address some of the things that might affect those townhouses and row houses. The row houses generally like the ones on Hector Street and Elm Street. We are looking at things like picking up trash and recycling in the alleyways. That's a big part of this, but again, it has to work. It has to work in the wintertime. It has to work in the summertime. This is something that, once implemented, it should be implemented, period. Doing any maneuvering of this just makes it more confusing. I think if people in the town didn't understand what we were doing, they should have understood the fact that for the last 2.5 months, we only picked up their trash once a week. So the transparency part of this, the initial part of this, if they had an issue with it, they would have had an issue with it. And we've really had no complaints about it. It's not like the borough just dropped this on them today and said, tomorrow we're starting to do this, and like it or not. So there's been a period of time. The feedback we've gotten from the public, honestly, it's been really good, and people, and not really good in the sense that we've learned from it and we've understood what we may have to do to maneuver and adjust. And when we're able to get, I would say, proper feedback from people, not feedback because they're mad that they weren't able to get something that day, then yeah, we've able to make adjustments. They do go on certain people's property to pick up trash because it's necessary. People that are elderly and can't do it, they do go up a set of steps on Harry Street because the person knows who they are by their first names and says, I can't do it anymore, can you do it for me? Sure, they went up, they will do it. And that's the way we handled it. And I think we've talked about this as being a customer service oriented public service department, and that's the way we're going to keep it. If somebody calls for service, they're going to get that. It's not, no is not the first answer. It's let's go see what we can do. And that's worked for us. I think as far as the general residents go, we've gotten some negative feedback from some people, which is expected. And the positive feedback, I think, again, I'll go back to the fact that it's been like this for 2 months, 3 months. We really haven't had much of a conversation about any of this. These guys haven't had any conversations. They've had nothing negative when they talk to people about it. And they do engage people who ask them while they're picking up, and they tell them about what's going to happen. So,
I have a question
go ahead.
For Frank, actually. So I know that the guys do talk to the residents. Is there any specifics in any different areas that are more of a concern that you guys are hearing back than others? Like, say, Elm Street and Hector Street because it's close, or just different areas in the avenues?
No, the only concerns there with Elm and Hector Street is always traffic backed up. But that's going to be normal on a Monday or a Thursday, so it really doesn't make much of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But no, there hasn't been much concern expressed that I know of.
Okay, and you would know because all the workers would let you know.
Yes.
Obviously I know you all communicate
Yeah.
very well, so.
Yeah, they usually get the complaint, and I usually get the call.
Right.
So the call that I get is that, why are the trash trucks going down? Why are they going down Elm Street at 10 o'clock? Well, what's the difference between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock? Really nothing.
Nothing,
No,
yeah.
all it takes is for
Right.
them to delay traffic for 5 or 10 minutes on that road, and
Right.
it's going to be backed up 6, 7, 8 cars no matter what. The one good thing about that is that since we've gone to 1 day,
It's only one
that's
day a
the
week.
only 1 day you're going to have to deal with that.
Right.
You're not going to have to deal with it the rest of the week. And if we get it all, it's going to, no matter what. I sat behind a truck in Manhattan, trash truck in Manhattan, in New York City for almost an hour. What am I going to do? Beep the horn? It's not going to do anything. So, but it does, in that respect, it will help. And it does help not only on in the upper avenues too, the 11th Avenue, 10th Avenue, those areas, the same thing, where there's cars parked on both sides, especially in the morning before people go out to work. You have to block the street. And those are the areas, again, that we're looking at utilizing the alleyways. Some of them are very obvious to do. Sutcliffe Park Drive, for instance, along Sutcliffe Lane. It's obvious that is a place that can be easily picked up from the back. There's no reason to do it from the front. So if we're able to do that one, we're trying to look at across the street and see if that one can also be done. That eliminates both sides of the street, eliminates traffic.
Right, so for people to understand, Ray, like what you're just talking about, like in going trash, picking up in the alleys and changing different things. So people need to understand that that part of it also is a work in process.
Yes, yeah, it's,
Continue to evolve.
right, we look, I do it, Frank does it, we're driving down the alleys different times a day to see what we have in those alleys. So
Right.
there are people who park in the alleys who maybe work overnight, so they're there during the day.
Right.
So we know that we're going to have to talk to that person and say, look, this is what's going to happen. So we don't want to cause more of an issue than, if there was no available parking in those areas, that would be. But I think everything that we've looked at, and again, Frank did an initial list, I went through it. I think that we've gotten it down to what places that we can start. The 1 and 2 and 300 blocks of West 6th Avenue between West 6th and West 7th. It's a straightaway. Snow and ice will not affect it. Those are a lot of row homes there. That gets picked up in the alleyway. They don't have any issues in the front anymore.
Right.
It's gone.
Right.
And that's a relatively high traffic area too,
Right,
so
right.
we
It
eliminate the
helps with
fact that the truck's there. So that's going to happen, but we have to jump the first hurdle, which is get this initiated.
Yes.
Go with the other programs. We've already talked about another truck, a trash truck. When that trash truck is bought, it would be accommodating to this kind of pickup. So it would have dual hydraulic lifts on the back of it for the cans. It would make things a lot quicker.
Right, so on that one, you just said dual hydraulic lifts for the cans. I'm going to go back to Frank. So that the residents also understand that going to the once a week is not more physically harmful for our employees.
For sure, yes. It's not. I mean,
So maybe you can.
we have the lifts on the trucks now. It's only one lift, but oftentimes you see some of the guys they have to lift the can in because the other guy on the truck is using the lift, so they're trying to keep moving. But
Right,
a dual lift system on the back will work a lot better. But for
Right.
now, they're not. We don't have any shoulder injuries. We don't have any back injuries.
right, so it's not putting
We're doing
extra
well
stress
with that.
on
Yeah,
them.
it's a lot less stress on their bodies. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Just
Ray,
so-
I have a question for you. When you showed the different areas that had gone to once a week, were any of the areas as dense as ours,
Some of them are much more dense.
more dense?
Yeah. I don't think the population density, let's take Norristown for an example.
not-
The population density in Norristown is 3 times of what it is here. And they're dealing with an outside company and pick up once a week.
I think what I'm thinking about is, we have so many row homes.
Mhm.
Up the street from me, there's 4 trash cans out in front of a house. And I'm thinking if people start doing that down the street, it's gonna look like Trash City.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's just a
the
concern I have.
unfortunate part of this whole thing is that trash has to be picked up and it has to be put in a receptacle. Now, I will tell you this, that some people around town have come up with some pretty unique ways to hide them.
Okay.
There's a couple at Springville Avenue that built like a small fence and put their address on the front of it and put them behind it, so you can't even see that they're there. And so, and you can do, aesthetically, you can do different things. I just don't think that we've put that out there yet, and that might be part of a public initiative that we do. Like, I took a picture of that. That will be in the newsletter to show what you can do. And this is a row home.
Yeah,
This
and
is
this
a
is
row
what they
home.
need
They
to
were
do.
able to put it right in front, and literally, if you drove by, you wouldn't have any idea what's behind it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the house that these 4 trash cans are also have an air conditioning unit that sits out front. So it makes it very difficult for them to place them.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no perfect answer because
There
we do have different different types of houses here. We can do the best we can, but I don't think any of us are going to be able to satisfy everybody with this. But this is what we have to offer. I mean, it is something that we've probably should have done years ago or slowly moved into that. But I think this atmosphere and this environment has put us in a position where it's the best thing for everybody.
And you talked about picking up in the alleyways. What if you have an elderly person who cannot hold their trash can out to the back?
The one thing that I don't realize, that I leave to them, is these guys, because they're doing the same route and it's the same guys, and as long as we keep the same guys, we know that what route they're going to be. They develop a relationship with the people in those neighborhoods. They know who can and who can't. And if somebody, I would question somebody who came to me and said, one of your guys did not try to help
Yeah,
the
that
people.
never happened.
I would really question that, because I see that they go out of their way in most cases. They probably go sometimes, maybe even a little too far to do it. But that's, like I said, we tried to make it a customer service oriented program, and they've the best term I could put is they bought into it. So they're good with it. They understand what they have to do. They understand that Friday comes, everything's off the street, no matter what. They have to figure out how to take care of it. So if somebody forgets, somebody has a party, it's always taken care of. There's never an issue. Everything's done in the period of time during the week that it can be done. And they know how to maneuver around it. Micromanaging this thing is not going to be something that I'm going to do. It's something the guy's going to do. Because the guys tend to know, if I don't take care of it now, I'll have to take care of it
Later.
one day down the road or 2 days down the road. So I'll take care of it now. And I have to commend them for being able to do something like that.
Thank you.
I guess that's the last part. So,
I'm sorry, excuse me 1 second. Going back to that, where we're talking about the resident needs, just to sort of summarize what you said, how there's some ways that we could address this going down to 1 day, assuming that that's what happens. So we know initially rolling out the whole new program that we've got the new trucks with the list. Everyone's just getting more trash. We're now allowing additional trash cans. That's taking care and addressing that concern. When you're saying special circumstances, that might be the situations where there's an elderly or disabled person and you're making adjustments to accommodate them.
or even something like, people have a funeral and they have an event or an event at their house afterward, and they don't want to leave a bunch of trash. They can call and they'll come and get it. What we don't want is, we don't want a truck, and we talked about that today. We don't want a trash truck traveling around the borough of Conshohocken looking for trash to pick up. So if during the course of their day, code department would call them and say, look, these people need this, or they would see it, they'll handle it. But we're not putting a trash truck like we were basically on Thursday and Fridays, driving around town looking for people who decided to put a second can out that day. I mean, the numbers were
Right.
30% less, 50% less, 60% less than they were on Monday and Tuesday. So they were basically running around town trying to find
Trash.
Okay, so, thank you. The next is, when you're talking about the alley pickups, so looking at some kind of gradual way, where applicable, that we could have trash picked up behind the homes versus wherever it has been up until this point. But depends on the circumstances and where you'd be able to. But that ultimately is a direction where we're going and potentially. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that includes the legal aspects of that. That includes the property aspects of that, which is the homeowner. Some homeowners have trees that hang down in the alleyways. Well, they're going to have to, they should, but they don't. They're going to have to maintain that so a truck can go down, because it's not going to be responsibility of the borough to go on their properties to cut down their trees or cut the trees back. So those are all things that we have looked at. But right off the bat, there's places that can switch over tomorrow. Why not, we'll start there, and then as things change, if we satisfy some of our legal issues with some of these properties, we can move to another section. Now, there's some that are just not going to be able to be done. Their incline is too high. The trucks wouldn't be able to make it down them. We wouldn't be able to do that. But I think there's a lot more that when the number that he came up with, there was a lot more than I thought.
We have low wire issues in a lot of the alleyways, but then other alleyways, it's wide open, so it'll work. Several.
So, can you speak to the drop-off at Borough Garage, excess trash, is that?
So, Stephanie brought this up. Not that we can't do that. I would deter that at this point only because we are willing, or the Public Works Department is willing to go out to somebody's home to get it. To take it, put it in your car, and to travel over to 7th Avenue, then we'd have to bring a dumpster in. And, I think for a 1 square mile town, I think we would prefer that you have the number. There's somebody there till 3 or 3:30 every day that will go out and get it, and they'll take care of it. Why put it in your car and have to take it to a site?
And that would be like the example you gave where some family had a special event.
Absolutely, yeah.
Something happened, okay. And
Yeah, I
this
can't think of an occasion where anybody said no.
extra pickup schedule, what do you mean with that bullet?
I'm sorry, say that again?
On here, on the number of bullets, the one is extra pickup schedules.
Like that. So, yeah, the key here is, I think that people aren't used to communicating this issue to the borough, and we have to get that out better. So we as the municipality will have to get that out to the general public that, look, if you have an event, summertime and wintertime, and you're going to need this, call the day before and say, look, I'm going to have an event. Can you have someone come by and get this? And they will.
Okay. So I obviously you can see all of the financial reasons behind this, what it does for our staff and frees them up to do all of the other activities. We know I actually had a resident that recognized that the neighboring boroughs and municipalities, the majority of them do have 1 day a week, but the feedback that I received wasn't positive, and a lot of it was around, in particular, the summer months. So where there's an opportunity, and that's why I appreciate looking at some possible alternatives because of the smell, the aesthetics, lids not being able to close because there's so much trash in it. So I'm finding some way to work around it.
So, we have answers for all of them. We obviously can get bigger trash cans for people who need them. The aesthetic part of it, I think that works to this. So I think not having trash cans sprawled all over the street, all over Conshohocken 4 days a week, is the aesthetic part of that speaks for itself. It's 2 days and then it's done. And as far as, everybody's concerned about, I think that was the first thing that was brought up by one of the Public Works guys, was about the smell. And we'll try to do what we can with that. There is a responsibility as homeowner that you have to take care of these things on your own. But we're looking at even contracting a outside company that specifically does that. And believe it or not, they're in Conshohocken. They're on Washington Street. They pick up your trash cans with what basically look like 2 hooks, and they have a power wash. They lift them up into the truck. They have a power washer, and it flips it, disinfects it, and put it out on the street. We had a first meeting with them. They gave us a demonstration of how it works, and now we're going to have a second meeting with them. So that's potentially something down the line if we can work out the financial part of it. But we're not a municipality that says no to anything. And when I looked into this, you see this type of truck in Europe a lot. That that is part of their trash pickup, and now you're seeing it in a lot of municipalities around the United States where actual municipalities have bought these trucks, and once every month, once every 2 months, they actually go and pick the cans up, and It's a totally automatic job.
So I'm going to guess that staff will not want you to answer more of my questions on that, because we're probably way too far from something like that.
We're way too far.
Okay, so we won't go further on
But
that.
it should be indicative of the fact that this is a process that there's been a lot of thought and effort and forward thinking included to get to, it wasn't just a trial period in terms of how does it work for our workforce or how does it work for our residents. It was what are we looking towards for the future. Here we are.
And I see and I understand the different aspects of this, which does put me in, all of us, because Conshohocken is built the way that it is. Some areas are tighter. Mine happens to be one of them, so there's row homes that have very narrow walkways between them, and that's where they store them, and it's really not an ideal situation. So I need to, on behalf of them, express the concern.
Well, hopefully this period of time will get us over the hump, and then when we get the robot that'll jump off of the truck and roll around to the back of your house and bring it out to the truck, that'll take care of it. I'm sure that's coming down the line.
Well, I will say, I did have one positive constituent, which is my 14-year-old son, whose only job is to take out the trash. So
I'm sure he loves that.
I have one very happy.
Yes, I could understand that.
So Ray, I thank you for all the numbers that you did. I was playing with the numbers and really kind of analyzing them. And one of the things that I saw, and it was just a 2-month time period, it would be interesting to continue to watch that. But trash and recycling, the actual tonnage from August to September was down by 28 tons, and for recycling it was down by 10 tons. So my hypothesis is that people are being more attentive to what they're putting in as trash and recycling, and we could actually get an environmental benefit from this. I don't know if...
The environmental benefit that we've talked to would be about, we've talked to the EOC about this, but yeah, I guess down the line there is that potential, because now you have to be aware of the fact that I have trash pickup once a week. Just like you have cardboard picked up and recycling picked up once a week. You're not going to let it sprawl out to the point where you can't control it. So you see people who have cut it, and we even had, when we first bought the trash cans, they had a trash can called an Amazon trash can, which was wide enough to put the Amazon box, the normal Amazon box, inside of, because they did, but it was just too big. It was like a big belly, shaped like a big belly. But you work around these issues, and I think that's what you're going to have to do. That was part of this. The last part of this was Bobby Joe actually came up with this composting idea, and she spent some of her own money to get a kit for composting. And now we're looking at a company that will come out, and that takes care of some of those issues. It also takes care of the odor issue in some respects, but it takes care of some of the other things. And the idea here is not to collect more trash. The idea here is to reduce it, and that's the only way in the long run that the municipality is going to save money and everybody's going to be better off, is that if we reduce the amount of trash.
Right.
And I think people noticing what they're throwing away and having to deal with it being more in tune with, it's just not, they'll come and pick it up no matter what. And if I only have to throw away a bag this big on Thursday, I'll just put it out this Thursday. And now you don't have that option. Now you got to think about it. So yeah, that could be absolutely could be a benefit to it. Again, that's one of the intangibles. I don't know. We don't have a big enough test period, I think, for that. But I think after a year, we're going to learn things that we need to change. And I think we're going to see, from what we've seen so far, we'll see the benefits of it. And if there are issues, we'll have to resolve them. again, I don't think everybody's going to be able to be happy with this.
And
That's
every-
not the expectation.
Right, and everything we do when we make changes it's a work in process, and there are always adjustments that need to be made along the way. We learn.
It is.
The Borough
Conshohocken
laws.
is much different than it was 18 months ago, and it'll
Yes,
be
it
much
is.
different than it
It,
will be
it,
18 months from now.
it just keeps evolving.
Yep.
And the borough needs to be there with it as it goes.
So I know you didn't want to talk about dollars, but I am going to talk about dollars because I am.
She's the dollar.
I'm
She
the
is
dollar
the-
person,
she's the
and
dollar
I have
girl.
a responsibility to our residents about the dollars. So I just want to point out just a couple things based on the numbers that you showed us. So in calendar year 21, we paid $44,400 for gas for only the Public Services Department. In calendar year 22, which is what we're in today, if I do the run rate against our fuel cost, we're paying in 22 an average of $4.14 a gallon for gas, $4.74 a gallon for diesel. If you run rate that out for the next 3 months, we're going to be spending $81,260. Okay? $81,000. We budgeted for this year $48,000. So we're going
That
to
was up from the year before.
yeah. So we're going to be basically spending 50% more that is out of budget this year. Right?
And that's, I don't think we can account for that. I mean, I don't think there's any way that you can account for it because most of this has happened after the budget was passed. So, and again, this could change tomorrow where those numbers can go down considerably and, you wouldn't have to, you wouldn't have to worry. That's why I don't talk about I don't want to talk about this part of it that much because we could have a substantial change. It was a substantial increase and we can have a substantial decrease. But if we're looking at worst case scenarios from an operations perspective, you have to look at worst case scenarios, and worst case scenarios are those numbers that.
Right. So $4.70 a gallon for gas. I don't think, based on our economy and what's going on in the world, that that's going to change a whole lot for calendar year 23. So I think that that's something that we need to pay attention to, that we are going to have to put in the budget for. And then when you put that in the budget, where do you make up the difference? You pull from somewhere else. So we're going to have to make those types of decisions along the line. And, sometimes where you're taking from is from amenities versus what the necessities are. So we're going to have those types of conversations as we move forward, specifically because, as Ray said, everything is up by about 33%. So that 33% on every line is going to have us making some difficult decisions so that we don't have to raise taxes and we don't have to impose those costs back on the residents.
And these numbers do include, by the way, when we talk about, it does talk about all fuel that we spend. So that talks about the police cars, the Narberth ambulance, which is part of our, they're getting gas from us and pay us back. They pay us back, but they're getting gas from us. And the sewer authority is also getting gas from us. So they're all seeing substantial increases in this. And we pay, remember, we're not paying taxes on this stuff. We're paying, I think diesel fuel was like $2.05 or $2.10 for us, and now it's $5. That's a lot.
Yeah.
The diesel, no matter what, a trash truck
Right.
is not the most efficient vehicle. You can do everything you want to it. It's just not going to be an efficient.
Right.
Especially when you throw all that tonnage on.
Right.
When you talk about this food truck, would it be something that would potentially be smaller because of alleys?
We can, yeah. So there is, we have talked about this. There's several of them that are smaller. So you have to weigh two things with that. So the smaller trucks means you have to go to Cavanna more. So you're going to have to take that trip there more. And if that's more efficient then yeah, we'll do it. But if it takes 10 trips to Savannah rather than 3 trips to Savannah, then it's not. So, we might have to eliminate some of the smaller alleys just to keep it at that rate. Now, again, if gas and if fuel drops down to a point, then it won't be as big of an issue. Or we've already looked into electric. It's just not to the point where electric trash trucks and electric fire trucks, they're just not at that level yet where the competency level of the people who are selling them is not at the level that makes you secure when you talk to them. Right? So, they know about them, they're out there, but they're like, you might want to think about it. So that might be one we want to wait to see who else gets one, and we can go look at it before we.
You never buy the first year.
Yeah. So and we're not talking about just an engine. We're talking about a completely different setup. But yeah, if we go to something like electric, the noise gets eliminated for the most part in electric. So people forget about that. So in alleys and small streets, the noise issue goes away, except for the hopper going up and down. That is something that we looked at. But again, it has to be a big picture. And the one thing I did mention that I forgot to mention is we have to do yard waste pickup. So yard waste pickup in the June-July area, we still have enough room at 7th Avenue where that yard waste could get put there and turned into mulch. Well, that DEP standards tell you can only go so high and so wide with that pile. So once that got to that level, we had to find another place because Upper Merion cut us off. We could not go there anymore. Closest place we could find was Solderton. So once a week, is it once a week or twice a week? Yeah, once a week, they have to go to Solderton to take yard waste now. So that's added to these numbers, which truly makes this actually better. I mean, we're actually doing better with these numbers than we are because that one trip to Solderton is like 30 trips around the Borough of Conshohocken. The unfortunate part of it is we had one breakdown right in the parking lot at Solderton. We had that towed back from there. So we also had 2 trucks in his 30 years. He told me that it's never happened before. But during this period of time, we had 2 trucks break down the same week. That would have been problematic trying to pick up trash 4 days a week. But luckily, a municipality that was next to us was nice enough to allow us to use theirs. And, it worked out. So I'm glad that they were able to accommodate us for that period of time, and it worked out really well. They used the same equipment, so it was not a problem.
So, everyone else, is everyone else on council? They're good? Okay. Well, I thank you guys very much for your presentation. It was very informative, very positive. I think you answered most of council's concerns. And we will continue to look forward to working with you guys in the next couple of weeks on the trash.
Yeah, so just in terms of next steps, just to
Yes, so everyone is clear.
close it up, based off of tonight's presentation and just with the success of the trial period, that will continue for the duration of this year. What will be back on your agenda will be at your November voting session to formally consider, after you've had time to digest this presentation, the data and facts that were presented to you, and really any other opportunity from the public in terms of resident feedback that we may gather over the course of the next basically 4 weeks to consider any permanent potential decisions for 2023. So we will update the public just that the trial period, the success of the once-a-week trash at this point is going to continue in a trial capacity, and then any permanent decision moving into 2023 will be in front of you for consideration, and we think that 4-week time frame for any additional resident feedback at this point will be sufficient in order for you to make a decision on what direction you want to go for 2023. Okay?
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Great job, as always.
Ray, if we could get October data, once
October, that would be great.
I think it should be in about a week.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The first two items are approve and adopt the September 7th and 21st regular meeting minutes and the September 28th special meeting minutes. The second is approve the September ending treasurer's report and accounts payable. So for this evening, the first motion is to approve and adopt the September 7th and September 21st regular meeting minutes and the September 28th special budget meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next motion is to approve the September ending treasurer's report and accounts payable in the amounts of $2,115,770.40. Woo!
I'll make that motion.
I just for
Oh,
audit
go ahead.
purposes, I just have to make sure that number is correct.
It
I'm
sounds a
sorry.
little off,
It's
yes.
$2,115,777.40. Sorry, we made that one difficult for you.
I did say it that way, right?
I'll make that motion.
2 million?
second.
Thank you. The next item is under new business. Oh, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. That one had me a little upset there, Stephanie. Next item is under new business. We're going to conduct interviews for board and commission reappointments. The first person for interview is Bob Maloney for the EAC. If you could come up, Bob. Thank you for coming in and wanting to serve on the EAC again. It is sincerely appreciated by all of us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, Bob, why do you want to continue to serve on the EAC?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the council for the initial appointment, and it's really been an honor to be able to serve with the group of individuals that are also on the EAC. When I first started this, I really didn't know that much about it, and I've learned about it from being able to participate, and it's really, it's made me a lot more aware of even just things that are going around in the surrounding communities and things like that. And I feel like I'm just getting started, so I think there's a lot more to accomplish.
That's great. Anyone else have a question for Bob?
Yeah, Bob, how long have you lived in Conshohocken?
I've lived here since 1981.
That's what I thought. And how do you think the borough's changed, for better or worse, since you've been here?
It has changed a tremendous amount since I first came here. Just the whole character of the community. It's moved from an industrial community. It's become a lot more upscale, and I mean it's a great place to live. It's the value of property in the community has increased tremendously, and the growing population is really a concern, because particularly as it pertains to the environment.
Right.
Bob, what's been your favorite part of serving on the EAC?
Just being able to contribute to the community. I think, and like I said, it's enabled me to learn a lot of different aspects, things that I didn't even consider, in terms of stormwater management, green energy, things that could really benefit the community long term. Just even things like this really hasn't come up, but something that I've learned that's related to it is that things like solar energy. So solar energy is something that's really on the come. But one of the things we really have to consider is as those solar panels come to end of life, we've got to find a way to dispose of them. We need to be thinking about things like that now, even though that could be 15 or 20 years down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else have any questions for Bob this evening?
Do you have a passion that you want to bring in the next appointment?
Yeah, well, my passion is to help the community. My kids and grandkids have grown up here, and I really want to make sure that this remains to be a viable place for them into the future.
It's a wonderful goal, Bob.
Thank you.
It really is. Thank you. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
The next person for interviewing is Alan Thank you. For the zoning hearing board. I'm going to have to take lessons for that one. Yes, either or, whatever you're more comfortable. Well, Alan, thank you for your service on the zoning hearing board and your interest in continuing it. It is truly appreciated.
My pleasure.
So what do you find most interesting about the zoning hearing board?
There's really two things. One, for me, it's learning. Every case, every appeal is something new in the code. And then it's been different. I thought it would be a little bit more monotonous, and it has not been. So I guess exciting might be an overstatement, but I enjoy it.
Good. Yes, there's nothing monotonous about Conshohocken, is there?
I think you just answered one of my questions, since we talked early before you joined.
Sure.
And was going to ask what were your expectations, what did you kind of envision it to look like? And what you're saying, it turned out to be a little bit more exciting than...
Yeah. Like I said, I thought it would be the same thing every month or every meeting, kind of, I want to put a fence up, and it's not. So I really enjoy that I've been able to become a part of helping to make decisions and things like that in the neighborhood.
That's great. Okay. Anyone else have a question?
I think I asked this.
In your experience, being new, going and joining and learning the whole process, are there any recommendations of things just to kind of help coach someone through that beginning and learning? I know there's a lot of it that has to kind of be self-taught and learned. Is there anything, though, that you would suggest, recommendations?
Prepare ahead of time. Read the codes, any codes that read. It's a lot of documentation on some of these, and read it and set the time aside before the meetings to really prepare. So,
is there anything more that could be provided to that person, that new person coming on board, that might help them?
I haven't thought about that. No. Yeah, no, it's a good. Yeah, probably when I get out in my car, I'll think of something, but I don't have anything off the top of my head.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for your service. Okay, the next item on the agenda is consider approving Resolution 2022-30, authorizing submission of the 2022 CDBG grant application.
I'll make that motion.
You going to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is consider approving the CDBG 3-year Community Development Plan. So the motion is to approve the CDBG 3-year Community Development Plan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
The last item is consider approving payment certificate number 1 to Ramos and Associates, Inc. for the CDBG curb ramp project. The motion is to approve payment certification number 1 to Ramos and Associates, Inc. in the amount of $81,891.64 for the CDBG curb ramp project.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public comment, if anyone has any. So again, there is no public comment for the record. So Mayor Aronson, do you have this evening? Brittany's getting ready for you.
All right, thank you, President Leonard. We really had an amazing Colonial Fire Expo last week. So much participation from our neighboring municipalities. It was packed, families, kids, council folks. There's a dive tank with divers and all kinds of demonstrations. Our police department were using drones. There may be a video of the mayor using the Jaws of Life somewhere floating around. So a big thank you to our emergency services for pulling this together and for all the fire departments that participated. It was really awesome. We also had, we know how wonderful How Properties has been as a community partner. They had a pumpkin painting event last week, and it started at 5. There was a line out the door at 4:45, and they were out of pumpkins by 5:08 p.m. So they will be going bigger next year. But it was really awesome, and they were collecting food donations for Colonial Neighborhood Council. And apparently that picture there on the left is after they had cleared out twice already what was on the steps. So thank you to Hal for continuing that wonderful partnership. And then finally, we have our Halloween parade this weekend. We're asking everyone to come to Marywood Park and register from 3 to 3:45, and we will start the parade promptly at 4. And a reminder that we do have our famous dog costume contest. I believe I got Councilman Cerna's wife involved in the judging, so I'm excited for that. And we'll see everyone in costumes on Saturday. And that's it.
Thank you, Mayor Arrington.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Anita?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Nothing, thank you.
Adrian?
Nothing, thank you.
Karen?
Well, we did have the environmental cleanup which the environmental cleanup, for those of you that do not know, is held 2 times a year, one on the east, one on the west. We just had it this weekend for the west side. It wasn't quite as much as what we've seen before, but I think we collected just shy of 500 pounds. So it's always a success, and maybe we'll start doing those cleanups on Thursdays and Fridays, and we'll go trash trucks.
Okay.
So,
Chief Metz, do you have anything this evening? No, you don't have anything either? I did ask Tina, right?
No.
Tina?
Just a reminder, we're coming into Medicare open enrollment season. This is just a reminder to our residents that we will have several events at the community center where we'll have brokered sponsored events. So if you have questions trying to navigate through what plan or how does the plan work and what would work best for me, we will have brokers available in the community center October 25th at 1 o'clock, October 26th at 6:30 p.m., November 7th from 8:45 to 10 a.m., and then November 16th from 10:30 to 12. So there's lots of options. We really want to make sure that our residents are able to navigate a difficult process.
It is difficult. I will go with that, yes. Okay, so if there's no more public comment, nothing else from council, meeting adjourned.